Hello, everybody. I want to have a talk tonight about all the data released this weekend, where everybody's going with what statistics, and I've always stayed with the same source statistics all the way through this, all the way through. All government data, all world data as countries report, going with ultimately the CDC, as I've always known the CDC to be absolutely accurate beyond all measures of many Commonwealth countries, because CDC is independent. Constitutionally in America, the CDC is for the people, because people can sue in the United States of America. You can sue drug companies. Now, we all watched COVID-19 pushing out of these vaccinations. World powers voted it a pandemic. The world took it as a pandemic. They took the initial decisions of the WHO, right or wrong, how that was done. A good friend of mine, John Carpe, did 1 year's worth of Canadian data all the way through, gives you all the numbers, including the economic, social markers, mental health, all of it. You can get all the stats, everybody. I've stuck with that. I've went through it all the way through, verified everything John did. Now, vaccine numbers were not there in that 1 year period. They were not, because vaccines hadn't even been released yet. It's new. Regardless of human rights, what John fights for and everything else, we have vaccination data in now, especially from America. People throw Israel. Not everything thrown from people's sources of Israel are accurate at all. There's narratives that are wrong narratives, people's selective data. And I'm going to get into that on the Delta variant and economic markers, because you know what, everybody? The one thing that I've proven myself in a graduate situation for is economics. I majored in economics. That's my educational background. I have a degree. Is it a luxurious degree? No. But it's a degree nonetheless, and it's something I've proven myself time and time again. We get into immigration numbers. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about the unvaccinated rates of those countries that Canada's just pouring into Canada. But we're going to just put that to the side. We're going to work on economics. We're going to work with the numbers as they are, that vaccinated or unvaxxed anti-vaxxers have been using, and organizations, not smudged, not fudged, the numbers that everyone's been using. And then there's the ones people make up or are selective by different organizations, leading to websites that don't come from government organizations attached to the governments of said countries or reported on such. So I go through that. We have Israel. A lot of people going, oh, look at Israel, vaccination rate 61%. And then people are saying, oh, look, it's not protecting, it's not high enough. The efficacy will not represent the other 40% of the population. That's a reality. The Delta variant, they say, goes through vaccine or unvaccinated. It goes through vaccine, not as hard or as worse as unvaccinated. Those are the statistics. But here's the economics of it, everybody. Why I follow John Carpe, who I was very privileged, proud to go through his data, his 1 year report, the investment of the Justice Center of Constitutional Freedom's work. Why I was proud to go through that, because they went through the economic destabilizers. And this takes me back in time to a premier of Alberta, unlike any crown premier ever before him. He took the notion with his power to say, look, everybody, this is how much primary sector we have to strive for. This is the revenue generation for our province. The higher the primary sector generation, the more money in taxation you will have for service sector GDP. I am King Ralph. I have Crown Colonial powers. The people I had with me in 1993, I'm speaking for Ralph Klein, he said, and I quote, It's a simple way to see a successful province. You can't have a service sector GDP over and above a primary level of GDP generation. Never. We will not allow the service sector, meaning at the time, this primary sector is this small, whopping service sector is that big. We are going to cut service sector and make a new path forward for the province of Alberta in 1993 going forward with lousy oil field prices, lousy, way less than it is now. It was actually for over 2 years, Ralph suffered in lowest oil prices that were even lower than the average of our worst year through the pandemic and all of it, 2019, 2020. That's a fact. Ralph went through it for years. What he did is said, we will not fund service sector unless you continue to meet a minimum required primary sector. That's how it works. Expand the primary, the service sector is unlimited if you keep the ratio, meaning grow your primary, grow the service sector. By the time Ralph Klein was done, the service sector, health services in Alberta, had never had a higher rate of health services funding. That's a fact. The problem now today is with COVID-19, and it's all over the world, is that somebody decided that we should tweak the service sector versus primary sector. We should tweak it to a point that you're going to borrow astronomical sums of money to focus on a pandemic, world-ruled pandemic. I'll give it that. Let's say vaccine numbers. Yep, I'm reading the stats. Vaccinated has an edge over unvaccinated. You will have more unvaccinated people worldwide at a higher rate with the Delta variant, all the variants that even affect vaccinated people. They're already saying that 70% isn't high enough. It has to be at least 90, and it's still going to require mask mandates, public shut-ins, which is economic reductions. That's a reality. Same numbers. John Eber's still going to get it with the Delta variant, but the reality is unvaccinated are going to have much larger numbers. That's a proven fact. Alberta just proves a massive point. I hate to break that bubble to everybody, but I'm no liar. I go with the numbers as they really are. I will not ever release data that's false. I just don't do it. People don't like it. Tough titty, you can quit me. Lots of people have quit me. My following falls down, then it goes back up. But if you want the truth, that's the truth. But the truth is also this. In real numbers, real statistics, you can ruin your economy trying to save a couple thousand lives in Alberta by tweaking the service sector, pushing all of the revenue that you don't have. You'd have to increase taxes massively. You've reduced your primary sector industry massively. You have huge deficit and debts that do not justify saving those thousands of lives. And you can say that's cold-hearted. Look at the rest of the world statistics, Canada. You can push for the greatest health services GDP from deficit, from printing money, but it's only going to equal thousands of lives and yes, tens of thousands of miseries. People can't live forever, and you can say you can't put a price on that, but you most certainly can. Statistically, you can. Right now, Alberta's saying they have to pick and choose who's going to live. The reality is, we can continually do that statistic if we keep funding health services at all extreme costs against primary sector, meaning you can't afford to save that many people. You can't. The world statistics show just in vaccination rollout. Look at the USA versus Canada. Look at China versus Canada. How far can you crush your primary sector industries, crushing economy to push a health services sector? Now, Cuba's got a great health services sector. People starve. People don't have other services. People don't have all kinds of things because they push that health services sector beyond the realm of what the GDP real ratio can handle, meaning primary sector. Because remember, folks, your primary sector is your number one source of revenue. The people's wages, their employment rates. Canada is shitting in these areas, shitting the bed. You can't afford your health services sector. Ralph Klein, not in a pandemic in 1993, made that decision, as unpopular as it was. He wiped out in 13 years following that Alberta's debts completely, and Alberta finished with the highest service sector funding it had ever seen, ever in the history of Alberta. Fact. And then the federal government began saying, well, we need to transfer that wealth created by Alberta. Alberta's going to have to tax the people higher and take on incredibly high deficits to fund the rest of the country, not willing to do these margins. And then we get into ceded and unceded land. Alberta, yes, has the most settled claims, the most private property by any other province in Canada. That's a fact. Least amount of crown lands. Yes, they settled with treaty land. Métis Indians never settled any treaty Indians, which Alberta has 1/3 of the treaty Indians in all of Canada inside the boundaries of Alberta. Now, I'm explaining this to all Canadians so you understand it. Alberta also has the most private land, can generate the most GDP in the country per person per capita because of that fact alone. Ontario, Quebec have the most unceded land. They took, in new boundary settlements, they took treaty lands from the Northwest Territory after the Northwest Rebellion. That's a fact. Ontario and Quebec took treaty lands from that Northwest Territory, the Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and placed it into their boundaries, taking treaty lands but still aren't available. We see unceded wars going on. BC is heavily into that with the Wet'suwet'en. We see 6 nations in Caledonia. There's much to share with all Canadians on just how it works in Quebec as well too, and why people of Ontario have high housing, why Quebec needs to be subsidized, why people are so poor overall, why the values of homes go through the roof. And it's not going to get any better with subsidized housing, no matter where you take the revenue from, because you're artificially increasing housing in small units, same property, artificially subsidizing it to make people have affordable homes. All you're going to do is strip your middle class to nothing. What we need, Canadians, is to have constitutionalism where we set rules of governance, where we set, listen, this is how much primary industry we absolutely must keep to maintain excellent health services. You can't shoot your health services past this minimum set primary industry. King Ralph did this autocratically. It was very beneficial to Alberta. It showed Canada you can win. You can win all the things you want when you go this route. When you don't go that route, when you leave the realm of science, which everybody loves to talk about science, what about economics? What about real economics? What about that? What about only 11% of Canada is available to all Canadians? And absolutely, Alberta has the most per person per capita private property, and it shows in GDP, and it shows when you push a primary sector past the ratios that Canada is doing right now. Canada's going in the wrong direction. An artificial economy subsidized by printing money and laying on fees and ballooning house prices, collecting residential taxes to bolster service sector. It's wrong, wrong, wrong. There is nothing for the next generation, nothing whatsoever. My son's generation, millennials, nothing but hard, back-breaking sweat and determination. And don't screw up your life. Go through all the incredible mandates by health services from the federal and all the provinces, bolstering a GDP that can't be sustained in no long run pictures. And I can tell you, world economics, like our American neighbors with the 3 world credit organizations, spell doom and disaster for Canada, as you've seen your inflation shoot past anything. And anyone invested in Canada right now, Canada bonds, Canada investments on the financial side, with the Canadian interest rate set the way it is against an inflation, you are losing money. Very few, depending on where you live in Canada, Toronto, Montreal, are going to do any well in this system going forward. I am sorry, but subsidized housing, transferring wealth through centralization and equalization is no long-term strategy, and you cannot find an economist to show you in any world data that is going to lead to a better country. In fact, it's the opposite. Your standard of living goes down the toilet as the cost of living goes through the roof. Do you think that there will be buyers besides wealthy foreigners from other countries that Canada is desperate to just prance in, as Quebec and BC have been doing since the 60s? Now Ottawa wants in on it too. Do you think that has worked at all for the province of BC? No. It's artificial. It's ready to collapse. And then where is your health services then? When you don't have enough wealth generation by Canadians because the primary sectors are shot and shoddy, what are you going to use to generate revenue? And I don't want to hear from losers like Jagmeet Singh saying we're going to tax the ultimate rich. They just walk out of your country and divest, which they've been doing for year after year. So don't say you're going to tax the ultra wealthy. They just run away. It's not in our Constitution. We are nothing like the United States of America. These people can pack up and go anytime they like. And they are. There's no accountability for them or any government officials. It's all a lie. Everything's a lie, and it's a way you want to look at things. Is COVID real? Yes. Is it the worst plague plaguing mankind right now? No. Cancer by an extremely large margin. Where is all the investment in the plague called cancer? None. I can promise you. This COVID in Alberta and the strain on the health system, it's people in those situations who are going to suffer with bigger diseases that affect our country. They're going to suffer. Now, sure, you could vaccinate at 90%, maybe that will relieve things, but it doesn't change mask mandates, not with Delta. It doesn't change any of the other restrictions, really, it doesn't. And the government's changing the bar. Israel's changed the bar. Everyone's changing the bar as the numbers come in. USA is nowhere near the vaccination rate. China, even way worse than that, which is typical as you go through the Asian world, as I get criticized by that world today. But the reality is that their value of human life is substantially lower. But there is a load limit between the value of life and what your country can generate. And Canada's there. We should be worrying about settling claims with the First Nations people. We should be settling Canada and releasing a massive tens of trillions of dollar economy to the world through constitutionalism. That will change the playing field. We should write a constitution like at one time a leader like Ralph Klein did, where he said you can't have a service sector bleeding off the system unless you have a primary sector at this rate. And when you do that, real economics, real common sense, you can expand your health services sector like Alberta once had done. But we're nowhere near the rate now, and now we borrow to maintain it. We borrow to say, look at us, we are saving the most lives of COVID-19. However, We haven't done anything with cancer or the rest of the things that kill you, which, when you take the whole bar of all the things, Canadians, you will die from when you reach a certain age, and then there's even ratios for that at different ages. COVID is not the worst. Sure, you can vaccinate. We can vaccinate probably to 100%. Force vaccine all Canadians. I'm not saying I want to do that. I don't. I'm just saying, let's just say that Canada does that as they push this 90% rate, which is forced vaccines. We have vaccine passports. We do all that, and then Delta's an issue. We can never have masks. We can never, and we've saved thousands of lives doing that otherwise would have been dead. Let's just say we do that. Out of 40 million people, we do that. What have we accomplished except for destroying our economy? Totally nothing common sense about it. Sure, you saved a few thousand lives, and I'm not trying to minimize people, but there are people out there right now, vaxxed or unvaxxed, with pre-existing conditions that really, if the vaccine don't push them over the edge, if they got COVID, they're going to die. They're going to leave this world. There's a whole bunch of other health factors, vaccine or no vaccine, that's going to take you out. Now, numbers show the vaccine will protect you 3 times as best than unvaccinated people, but regardless of Delta variant, people are going down anyway, and they're trying to say that we have to have a 90 to 100% vaccine rate. We have to still use masks. We still have to lock the country down economically. We still have to have this unbalanced ratio of GDP, primary sector to health services and other service sector. That don't work, people. It don't work. So at some point here, we can go through all this like Canada wishes to, and it's very socialist. We can go that route, or globalist, if that's what they want to call it in their other version, which leads to the same thing. We can go that route. We can go through it. But at some point, at what point, when your economic condition is deteriorated so bad, and you can't afford the surgeries anyway, because there's no more money to print, you end up like a Venezuela or a Cuba, and people are starving and there's not other things available to you. At what point do we say, hey, this didn't work at all? Why did we go down this path? Why are these factors not incorporated? Why is it we got to build up and not settle the claims and go outwards? Why can't the people have and make a living off the land? Why can they not have constitutionalism? Why can't we be prosperous? Why? Well, that's your government, and it's a socialism or a globalism, whichever way you want to look at it. We're going to go through vaccine mandates. You're already all seeing it. You're going to go through vaccine passports. It's going to be 90% now, and anyone under that is selfish. We're going to go through all that, and then it's going to be like, it does the Delta, because viruses grow and expand. They evolve way faster than the complex human being. Viruses are small, limited organisms. They don't say they're living. They don't say they're dead. They say they're like a computer thing, a broken thing that wrecks your DNA. They say all kinds of things about vaccines, but the reality is, you guys, no matter which way we go through this, people can't live forever, and we're not there. And we need a primary sector that can balance out our health services. King Ralph Klein, 1993, he did that autocratically in the Crown system of Canada. Only one ever in Canada to do that. He even resisted the Crown, and they got rid of him. They voted him out. The Conservatives have never, ever been the same, and they all borrowed, they all raped, pillaged, and plundered. No different than the Liberals. Look at Alberta in its entirety now. Till today, Jason Kenney with a runaway pandemic of numbers that people can't just dismiss. The health services numbers are there. The same ones me and John used, we went through. He even funded and did an expansive system. I went through it all to make sure it was accurate, and the Justice Center did that. But it's right back to mental health, primary sector, real economics. How can you justify the numbers? You can't. Not at the extreme deficits, the destruction of the economy. You can't. There's a level of common sense lost here. Go ahead, protect yourself if you want to. If you don't want to, then you roll your dice like everybody else. And I'm going to tell everybody, double vaccinated Pfizer. I have met the most people, been very active, thousands of people. No masks and no masks events that want masks. I go with masks. I have been tested for COVID-19 a dozen times. I've worked in the industry that demanded it before all the rest. I've never been classified as COVID positive. I went through all the testing. PCR test, big swab down my nose, all the way to the back of the head. Pissed off because I got a deviated septum. Don't do that. They did it anyway. Caused me a lot of problems the first time. I mean, now they're pretty good about it. But I've been tested I don't know how many times, over a dozen. Never had COVID. I've been around so many people, so many events all over the place. Double vaccine now. I've still not gotten COVID, so I don't know. I think I had it from Fort McMurray. If everyone's ever been to the big Suncor CNRL sites or everywhere else, it's people from all over the world, 5,000 people from every nation of the world. There was no vaccines. COVID was realized in March, but they didn't do any crackdowns till April. Well, guess what? I was there with all those foreigners in a very dirty environment in a capital of bringing people in from all over the world, Fort McMurray, Alberta. On one of those sites, we all got the winter flu, a worst one we ever got in our lives. Brought it home. My parents had the worst flu experience of their lives. My kids were sick. Maybe it was COVID-19. I don't know. They didn't even have a test for it then. But since then, I've never been sick. No flu, no nothing. I've never odd little things like a headache or something, but I've never been sick with the flu or nothing else since January of 2020. Haven't been sick with nothing. Not a thing. That's the only real thing I know. And I've been on many, many job sites. I've been all across Canada, through major airports of Canada. Massive rallies, no masks, yes masks. I've never gotten sick, so I don't know what to tell y'all. I don't know. But I know lots of people who've died. Cancer, other things. I know people have been put off from cancer treatments. I know right now that's a big thing now in Alberta again. Ontario Post, 89% vaccine rates. They have little low numbers for a massive, massive congested place, to be honest. Way more massively congested than Alberta. But Alberta went with no mask mandates. Has coming on a 70%, but July they didn't. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. All I know is all the people in ICUs all around Canada, largely unvaccinated. The ones on ventilators, huge portion unvaccinated or partially vaccinated or took a shot too little too late, got it after they entered that environment. Whatever. I'm not saying what is. I'm just telling you what the same numbers me and John used from the same sources. So I can't call John a liar, or I'd be calling myself a liar. It's the numbers I used. Israel went through with the Delta, but guess what? Still, everybody, still by the government of Israel's published numbers, majority of the people Delta variant affected in their ICUs are absolutely unvaccinated. The ones who mostly on ventilators, yes, vaccinated, unvaccinated people in the hospital, but those in ICU, those on ventilators, mostly unvaccinated. Sorry, that's the truth. So I don't know where people are getting their numbers, but if it didn't come off the Ministry of Health's website of Israel, I don't know why you're going for it. I can't do that. And I wouldn't even use Israel-Palestine numbers because they're messed up over there, and I would never trust it. I don't even trust Canada for world stats. I don't. I have my own issues with Canada and just practicing our crown colonial system. I have always relied on the United States of America, independent, impartial, and the power of we the people who can sue these organizations. These pharmaceuticals, they have class action lawsuits. Hospitals can get sued. Doctors can get sued. It is not the same, and I've published lots for many years. See, it's about time for me to head back. Oh, put on some keys. Gets dark fast at summers now. But that's my video, everybody. This is it, and I'm really, with people and what they send me in videos, lots of it's from bullshit artists, people making up stories, or websites of garbage. I'm on the world stage. I get my numbers directly from Russia's UNSC, China's UNSC, USA's UNSC, UK's UNSC, or the ministries right off them. And right out publicly, especially when they're pissed off. That's why we're going into proliferation, Canadians, because we have to look at the Green New Deal being pressed on us by a crown colonial government. And I say we come with the most smarts, with the most knowledge, and that's what I always do. I only give the truth as it really is, and if people don't like it, go to your loony left, or go to your radical right, or go to these websites and BitChute and everything else from shit that's bullshit. Sorry, but even John with the Justice Center Constitutional Freedoms, John follows the numbers. He grabs the government data. It's real, and I can verify it. He hasn't done anything on vaccinations. He fights for human rights. So he goes on the other side, at the economic side, the social side, the mental health side. He puts it all in. And still nobody puts in Canada's immigration numbers, or how many unvaccinated people Canada's bringing in. And when you look at the countries of origin in those 4 major airports, I'm sorry, but those are tremendously low vaccination rates. Completely obsolete, really, some of them. So don't give me that. And when people start saying, oh, you're anti-immigration, no, I'm about science, I'm about numbers, I'm an economist. I go by the numbers, I use the same numbers Alberta Health Services use. I know how the system works, and I've used it my whole life. And I'm very, very good at research and going through all the bullshit. That's what I do. You don't see me myth busted. You won't see this video coming down. That's reality. Truth. Thanks, everybody. That's my video tonight. Share, or don't. Or continue on the path in one direction. But the reality is, a lot's happening in Canada that is damaging to all of you. And if we don't start taking this nose to nose, head to head, I don't know what to tell you. And we will be doing that. I will be rolling that out over the next couple weeks. We're going to go through proliferation, nuclear. You need to know all this, everybody. It's your economy in a Green New Deal. Let's call them out on it. Let's increase our knowledge. Let's get everyone on the same page, and let's see how it goes. After that, let's go through economics and the realization of COVID-19 as it really is in real numbers, and I'll take you all through it. We'll do a mini one on that too. We'll wait to see what the Treaty Indian chiefs have to say. Do they come back on myself and Tina's video? Are they Treaty 4? Or are they Crown sworn, Crown attached, and no different than the Crown system we have to break? Then it means I will have to spend these years going reserve to reserve, band office to band office, and talking to all the people. Maybe that's what it'll take. It's a huge undertaking. 3,000 reserves. It's huge. But we'll see. We're going to go step by step as we go. I'm going to finish the 3 provinces left. PEI, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. I want to do that before the snow flies. I'm back in Alberta for Thanksgiving with my daughters. Live. We did a video shoot through Messenger. I didn't do that Facebook Live. I did do a Facebook Live for all of you, but I actually had one with my daughters so they could see the Niagara Falls. They've never seen it before. Can't wait to show them. One thing about Ontario and the area I'm in here, so close to the American border, in my life, we have 3 days left of summer, 2 days left of summer here, I guess, as the night's wrapping down. But I have never experienced summer in this heat or this. I guess that's common here, but I'm an Alberta boy, high elevation, up north, extremely up north, and man, I've never ever experienced a September like this. I've never seen my summer finish ever, I've never seen a summer. It's always been overlapped fall and falls or winter back home. So this is cool. This is cool. I'm in shorts, a t-shirt, soaked from Niagara Falls, and it's still 24 degrees here as I sit in Hamilton at the park off the mountain. Pretty cool. Time to head home. That's my video, everybody. Love you all. Love or hate it. You're always going to get the truth from me. I don't sugarcoat nothing. I just go forward as the real numbers are. And that's what we're going to do this week about proliferation. Then we're going to do a week on COVID. And then we're going to know if Treaty Indians have all responded. 39 of them. Am I going to get any? Or is it just like the Catholic Church? Just like Crown Colonial Canada? Because they're all Crown Colonial. And then it means the work we have to do is tremendous, but it's going to get there. Little note I want to say, I love the rally that was shared with me. It's on my timeline, everybody. I'll do something with that later tonight, probably here too, and reshare it so you can all experience that, where it's freedom fighters and First Nations Indians right at Parliament united. I loved it. Thank you, Brenda. It was great. Dennis Woodrich, Leah, you guys are awesome. Awesome stuff. I loved it all. Thank you, Mark O'Reilly. Great stuff. Ian Bjorkman. Everybody, it's good. But I get tremendous with this 5,000 friends list, tremendous followers. My messages get filled daily, hundreds of them. A lot of misinformation, left and right, a lot of misinformation from the right. Then it's true. But there's an economics truth that has to be brought forward, and you can call it mean, ill-spirited, and I'm sure I'll get shit on by the left for sure over it. But when you start looking at death rates, John Carpe was not wrong about any of that, and I back all of it up as it is now. You have to look at that stuff, and you have to look at economics, because in the end, where will you be when your system collapses? How many people will die then? Anyone ever think about those numbers? Health Services ain't going to look at those numbers. They don't give a shit. They care about their funding, their now. And I get that. If we can save people, yeah, I'm all for it. But at what cost? At what cost? And that's the real issue here. And vaccines don't cut it, apparently. They don't cut it. Not with the Delta variant, they say. So, when do we realign the economy? How are we going to realign the economy? That's what I'm going to tackle. And I'm going to give a real narrative that no other party, not PPC, not anybody ever truly wants to give you all. And I am a real economist. And I'm definitely not a Harperian economics, divine socialist crown economist. I will never be Commonwealth lying piece of shit Harper style, where you tell the West one thing, get into power, and go extremely globalist, civil law socialist, and redesign economy for the few at the expense of the many. There's no justification in that. And you're never, ever going to get me to ever stand beside or behind a liberal, a conservative, or NDP, as well as Bloc, PPC, or the rest of it. Sorry, all Crown. And they can go, oh yeah, no, we like all, but don't touch the Crown. Let's get the power out of the hands of criminal politicians who have no accountability, no rules of governance, or how to govern systems. They are allowed to do whatever they want. You can't trust a man or woman like that, especially when they have the divinity, meaning you're all under them. They're like gods to you. You can't give human beings that kind of power. That doesn't work in any government system. They will abuse you. Thanks, that's my video. Good night all. Share, share, share. Bye now.